Bienvenidos a TabooTalk Latina Edition. Yo soy Cynthia.
And I'm Jeanette. And como siempre, we're here to hold space for the real, raw, and necessary conversations that often go unspoken in our culture. From generational healing to identity, from love to grief, nothing is off the table. And today we're diving into a topic that hits home in many Latino households, dinero. But not just the money in our wallets. We're talking about the beliefs, silence, and fears around money that so many of us grew up with. It's time to talk about it, heal through it, and shift from scarcity to abundance.
Our guest today is una verdadera powerhouse, shifting the culture around money. She's a financial educator, public speaker, and the author of the award-winning book, Cultura and Cash, named a top personal finance book by Business Insider and the Seattle Times. Please help us welcome the incredible Giovanna Gonzalez, also known as Gigi.
Gigi, we're so
Thank
excited to
you.
have you with us.
Thank you for
Thank you for
having
being
me.
here.
Thank you for the warm introduction.
Absolutely, well deserved. And before we dive into the deep end, can you share with our listeners a little bit about your journey, what it was like growing up, first gen Latina, and what led you to become a voice for finance education and empowerment?
Sure. So I will try to keep this brief. Hello, everybody. Thankful to be here. My name is Giovanna, but a lot of people know me as Gigi or the First Gen Mentor, which is my brand name. I am Mexican American, the daughter of Mexican immigrants, and I grew up in a border town in California, about 2 hours east of San Diego. So it's a small agricultural border town. Growing up, money wasn't discussed much. If the topic of money ever came up, it was very much dinero, so don't ask us. So it was always like, there isn't money. Don't ask us for money or let's not talk about money. And then growing up, I was always good at school, so I knew I wanted to go to college. My parents encouraged me to go to college. They're like, you're gonna have a better life than we do if you go to college and get an education. But that was really all the guidance they could provide. So I went to community college, then I transferred out to UC Santa Barbara, and there I majored in economics because I liked dealing with money. So I did like learning about money, but I still didn't know how to use it. And I always envisioned myself working at a bank for some reason. So I graduated in 2011, and then I went into the real world and got my first big girl job working for an insurance company. And I was making more money than my parents ever had as a low income family of five. But I was still struggling with my finances. I had a lot of bad roommate situations, bad bosses, toxic relationships, just a lot of situations that I wanted to escape and I couldn't get out of because of lack of money. And that was very frustrating to me because I thought I had checked all the boxes to do everything right, to get good grades, go to college, graduate, get a good job, but I was still scraping by with money. So that's when I had the realization that even though I was making decent money, I wasn't managing it well. So I said, okay, no mas. What can I do differently? So I decided to self-teach myself financial literacy, and I did that by reading over 50 personal finance books. I just consumed as much as I could. And then once I learned how to manage money, I also had this fire inside me of like, why wasn't this stuff taught to us sooner? And it made me angry, to be honest. And I said, how can I share this with other women, specifically women of color that need access to this information to have an easier life? So I Googled how to teach financial literacy to others, and I came across a nonprofit called the YWCA. They have national chapters, and I volunteer with them for about 2 years out of their Phoenix chapter because I lived in Phoenix at the time. And then in March of 2021, I decided to start sharing these same tips that I was sharing in my local community on TikTok. And that blew up because there was just a hunger for the knowledge.
Yeah.
And 4 years later, it's my full-time job.
Wow, that's amazing. What an accomplishment, right? Out of frustration, right? That's like I'm very impressed because out of frustration, you were like, no, I'm gonna teach myself, right? Because it wasn't taught to me, so I'm gonna teach myself, and then I'm gonna teach others. So that
And honestly, Gigi, that's something that it's so needed
yes,
because we talk about it all day doing interviews and one-on-ones. And I feel like in nuestra cultura, it was raised how you said it, right? Like, o somos pobre o somos rico, like we're not even the middle class. And then it was always like, okay, but what are we? Like, why can't we have the money? Like, we were not born to be rich or be
Mhm.
billionaires, right? Like, that was like always the mindset, like, you can't achieve that. or go to your 9 to 5 and live off your retirement plan. So it's so needed to educate ourselves in money because we get the money, but then we spend and we're like, wait, I just made X amount of money. Where
Mhm.
did it all go? And when you look at it, like nowhere really that was worth it, right? And I think that's
Right.
the problem too, that we could make the money, we are making the money, but we don't know financially how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're great at spending it, right? We're big consumers, but it's important to balance that with long-term thinking and thinking about the future and building wealth over the long term.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I love what you're doing. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. And this conversation is so needed because this is a taboo that we have to break as Latinas. So I'm so honored that you're here. And of course, let's talk about the culture silence around money, right? I know in so many of our homes, dinero was either a stressor, a secret, or just simply we don't talk about it, right? We keep it hush hush. So, what was your experience growing up and how did that shape your relationship with money?
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned before, the experience was always a no. So if that meant if I was at Walmart and I wanted a chocolate, sometimes I get lucky and they were in a good mood and they buy me the chocolate. Most of the time it was like, no, no tengo dinero. Or if the Scholastic Book Fair came into town and I asked for money to buy a book, like a lot of my classmates, no tenemos dinero, or I get like $1 and I could buy a little eraser, or a pencil, or something.
Yes, my God,
Something.
that's such a TBT, right?
Yeah.
What a memory unlocked.
Yeah, yeah. And then my other money experience that I remember seeing a lot of is my parents scrambling to meet emergencies. So let's say they had a financial emergency, they kind of always had their go-to people, which they didn't have an emergency fund, my parents, or access to a bank loan or anything, or they did have credit cards, but they didn't use them for that. Instead, it was very normal for them to go to their compadres because he was a doctor and he made good money for a small short-term loan. And they had a good relationship, so he'd pay them back. But that was normal to me. Just like, oh, if you need help and if you're in financial trouble, you just ask friends or family for support.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so true. And I feel that we all go through it one way or another, right? Growing up, I remember that. And my mom will have credit cards and we will constantly be moving. And I'm like, well, we have money, right? But no, she was using, estaba tirando el dinero
Mhm.
just to like live the moment. And I feel that that affects us growing up because we all know we wanted something different. We wanted to be educated, but we didn't have the resources like we do now or people that are actually standing up for us. So I know money talk is often labeled taboo in our culture, like we discussed. So Gigi, what are some of the common money beliefs or blocks you've seen in the first gen community that you're so involved?
Yeah, there's a lot. Some can be that money is evil. I blame Christianity for a lot of that. Although my uncle checked me the other day, he said it's actually not Christianity. Okay, well, a lot of people have misconstrued what the Bible says and they kind of think that money is evil because of that. So if you want money, you're greedy, it's a bad thing, right? Instead of rejecting that mindset and thinking, no, like money is a tool to enrich my life and to help me help those that matter to me, right? Money can be abundant and can help me reach my life goals and support the causes that are important to me. It can help me feel safe, right? Another one is that money will always be scarce. So I think that's very, very common with the children of immigrants. If we have experienced any sort of financial trauma growing up, whether that looks like you mentioned, a lot of uncertainty with housing, right? We moved a lot too when I was young. So not having the stability of having like a safe home that you're always growing up in, or if you had food scarcity and you guys didn't have enough food for everybody to go around, if you're somebody who grew up in a home where you guys were evicted or the utilities were often turned off for lack of payment, right? Those are all things that affect our money journey, especially if you experience them as a child, because money habits are developed as young as the age of 7. See, growing up definitely affects your interaction with money later in life. So it's important to kind of reflect on what's your association with money, because if you do have those negative beliefs, it's going to scare you from tackling your money journey. It's going to make it feel overwhelming because it's going to bring back those feelings that you had as a child going through those things.
That is so true. And I want to, now that we are in that subject and just being open about it, right? Growing up, my family was always off food stamps, right?
Mhm.
And I know that that's such a need and I'm all in for it. But I had a hard time breaking free from that. And
Mhm.
so I would say probably like the last 5, 6 years that I finally broke free, but it took me time and still it's in the back of my head, like, should I? Like, why not? Right. But it's that belief of like, no, I need to live off this. And this is all I was raised to believe because of me growing up in the household. I'm like, you have to, you have to, you have to. So then when I decided to pull away, it was like, oh, I feel like I'm too good now, right? Like, oh, so you're better now. You don't need it. So I think a lot of us struggle too in the Hispanic, that not bashing that we need that, okay? But it's more of like, when do we break free of understanding that there's so much more than just depending on that? If that makes sense, right? Because I hear it common in our culture about food stamps and just you need this, and if I find something better, then they're gonna take away this from me. You can make so much more.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
You know what
Kind
I
of
mean?
like limiting your income so you can qualify, right, for these free
Yes.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That, exactly. Yes. And then I felt like that. And it's crazy because I hear it all the time. And I'm like, but you can make so much more. Like I've seen it, right? I lived it. And it's like, yeah, but I'm scared of this. And I think it's nuestra cultura, because even my mom, it's that reminder of like, no, 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 you can, because if you max this, then they take this away. But I'm gonna make more.
Yeah, you
Right.
can
Yeah.
afford to pay for it yourself. Yeah, a lot
Yeah.
of that is, yeah, that scarcity mindset and having to do the healing to embrace an abundant mindset. And like you said, have the thinking of I can earn more, I have the potential to earn more and be able to pay for these things on my own. I know the same can be said for like if you have health insurance provided by the government, it's like, no, I don't want to make more, or I'm not going to take this promotion at work because then I won't be able to qualify for that. But again, if you take a promotion, you'll make more money and you should be able to pay for that yourself.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? The conditioning, how we were conditioned from a young age, and then we just carry that along to our adulthood, right? And then we have that mindset, and then we start questioning. So yeah, that's a good point that you bring up, Jeanette. Yeah. And I know you talk a lot about creating financial literacy that is culturally fluent. What does that mean to you, and how can we begin to build that in our families and our communities?
Sure. So that means having financial education that also includes the unique challenges that we face as a community, as a Latinx, Latinx, Latino community. And for us, some of those unique challenges are how to navigate loaning money to family. Because, like I mentioned, that's very common in our community. It's definitely something I saw growing up. And it can be hard to navigate that when you're just starting out on your own and wanting to support others, but like barely having anything for yourself at the end of the day, or how to manage providing a monthly allowance for family that needs that extra support to be able to get by, or how to even plan about our parents' retirement and how they're going to have to stop working one day because they can no longer work. But if they haven't been able to plan for retirement, oftentimes that falls on the children of immigrants, of us having to think not only of our retirement, but also of our parents.
That is so true. And I don't feel like we have enough conversations about it. So we're all drowning in it together in the same thoughts, but we're not loud about it. We don't talk about it. So that's why I admire what you do, because it's like really noticing things that are patterns, but that we can break free from them.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's yeah, a lot of it can be shame, right? Of like, well, you went to college, you should be doing better. Why are you still struggling? Kind of like me, but I learned from being open with friends that I went to school with and then post college that they we're dealing with the same thing of these family expectations of now that you went to college, you're the one who's made it out the hood, right? And we expect certain things because we raised you, right? And I think a lot of us, if money wasn't an issue, we would give as much as we can to family, but that's not the reality of the world we live in, right? We have our own situations, whether it's paying off student loans or wanting to plan for our future, like planning for a mortgage or other want to go get a master's and go back to graduate school, right? So it's a lot to manage, especially in the US, because life in the US is not cheap. It's expensive.
Oh yeah, especially nowadays.
Hmm.
You step out and like spend $300 just breathing.
Hmm.
I know. No, that is so true. And let's shift into healing and empowerment. One thing we love about your work is how you reframe money as a tool for freedom and alignment. How did you start breaking out of the scarcity mindset that we keep talking about? And what did that transformation look like for you in the process?
Honestly, that was probably one of the hardest parts. I had to do a lot of deprogramming to go from money is scarce, what's the point if there's never going to be enough, to I can make more and there's no limit on how much money I can make. There was a book. I always blank on the name when I'm asked. It's actually a Christian book, and I'm not Christian. I'm agnostic, but I still found a lot of value in it. I'll have to get back to you with you guys so you
Of
guys can
course,
include in
yes,
the
please
show
share it.
notes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys can put on the show notes because it's really helpful. And basically was like, oh, this whole trope of like, oh, the starving artist, or like, think about your favorite artist, like Beyonce, Taylor Swift, right? Like these people make a great living doing what they love. And some would argue that, okay, they're not the normal, right? But who's to say you can't go for that? So I had never seen that. I had never seen somebody doing something they loved and getting paid very well for it. So it was hard for me to understand that or grasp that or even think it was possible. So it was through entrepreneurship that I expanded kind of my worldview and met other entrepreneurs and saw, oh, there's plenty of people that do what they love and they get paid very well for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I definitely had to see it in real life for me to believe it. It's hard to believe it otherwise.
Yeah, and it's also the safety of that 9 to 5, right? Because I was like, my parents will always tell me, like, you go to college, you get your 9 to 5, you have your 401k, like that is secured. But you going on your own and building your own business, like that's not secure. So it was almost like this fear that they put over entrepreneurship versus like your typical 9 to 5. It's like that's what you have to do. Like you get paid, whether it's monthly or weekly, that's secured, but entrepreneurship is not secure. So don't take that route, right? So when we're exploring this route, right, that's the fears that kind of start popping up. Like, is there more money on this side, right? Doing it on my own or building something of my own?
Yeah, especially if you never had entrepreneurship growing up or no in your household thought about, getting out of their 9 to 5 or going and getting a degree and that education, but then they will force it on you. Like, look, learn from me. I didn't go to college. You should go. So I think that's ingrained in all of us. So growing up are things that we have to break free from. But it's really hard. It's better said than done, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know for me growing up, that was definitely seen as a sign of you've made it. The fact that you could work for someone else and have a stable job with benefits. And I think that's a great path for many, right? If they enjoy it and they're able to thrive in it. For me, I actually found I'm a much better entrepreneur than I was an employee. So I just always like to mention this because I see it as a way of giving women permission to explore that
Yeah.
side of them because I would have never known that. And by the way, I found the book that helped with my mindset. It's called The Law of Divine Compensation by Marianne Williamson.
Oh, I'm going to look
Um,
into it.
Yeah,
yeah,
and I'll write it in the show notes as well with like a link.
yeah, it was recommended by my business coach when I first started out 4 years ago. And I told her, I'm like, I have this barrier that I cannot get over. She said, I
Yeah.
know just a book. She recommended it. I listened to it on audiobook and it really helped with my mindset.
That's awesome. Thank you. I didn't look
Mhm.
into it because I was into the Think and Grow Rich. I don't know if you heard
Oh,
of it.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
haven't read it, but I know it's a classic.
It's so good because it,
Yeah,
it it feels like it's
the
talking to
mindset.
you. And he's not even like the author, it's Hispanic or anything, but it's crazy, right? Because it all goes back to that we all go through those limiting beliefs. But there's
Mhm,
so much more like we're capped at making money
mhm,
because we think we're not enough or we can't do it. And it's those
mhm.
beliefs, right? So yes, thank you. I'm gonna look into it.
Yeah.
Good.
And I know there's often, like we all spoke about, this guilt that comes with earning more or building wealth when you come from struggle, right? How do you navigate that? And what would you say to someone dealing with that guilt right now?
Honestly, I'd heard about this guilt a lot from my readers, from my followers on social media, from students in my financial literacy classes, and I had a hard time relating to it. I never felt it, and I'm like, what am I missing? And I don't feel it because I was like, well, I worked toward this, right? But it wasn't until recently, actually, maybe a year or two ago, that I felt it for the first time, and it felt awful. So I know what people talk about now. So it was about my grandma. She's kind of quiet about her past. And for whatever reason, this one time she was opening up to me about how poor they were growing up. And I knew that they didn't come from money, of course, but I didn't know that she didn't have a real jacket to wear in the winter until she was 10. So before then, yeah, if it was like 50 degrees outside, because we're from the desert, so it doesn't snow, but still 50 degrees is chilly, right?
Yeah.
And she just had a little cardigan. That's all they could afford. And that was her little blue cardigan. And she wore it for years until her mom was stable enough to be able to afford like a $20 jacket or whatever it was. So I reflected on that because I recently lived in Chicago, and it does get cold in Chicago. You definitely need a good jacket. And I invested in an $800 jacket. I had it all 3 years that I was in Chicago, but I just thought of like, wow, in 2 generations, look at how far we've come, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was definitely some guilt there of I'm thankful that because of what my grandma's done for me, what my mom's done for me, what my family's done for me, I'm in this place where I can afford that and I don't have to suffer in the cold like how she did. But then like my heart hurts for the younger version of my grandma that had to deal with that, of course. Yeah. So like I want to give her a hug, like the younger version of herself, you know. How do I navigate that, or how do I tell others to navigate it? Honestly, the best is therapy. I'm a big advocate of working with a professional to navigate those feelings. I think another way to deal with that is by sharing what you do have with people. So I know different people have different ways to go about this. I know some people like to save money to be able to take their family on vacation, or they like to splurge on taking them out to nice dinners, right? To kind of level up their family in a way that's allowed with their budget. So yeah, I mean, one of my good friends, she took her mom to Mexico City, and her mom had never been able to travel for pleasure. So it was her first time. Another friend took her mom to Paris with first class tickets, you know, so it's really
That's
cool to see.
awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool to see how some Latinas prioritize that, right? And make space to uplift those that matter with them.
She'll be like, "Ay, pero ¿por qué te gastaste ese dinero?"
Yeah.
I'm laughing because we have very different moms. My mom would have been like, "This is it? You didn't get me something more expensive." Yeah, it's funny.
But it's crazy, right? Because it depends on the like tu abuela, your aunt will be like a whole different generation of like, no,
Right.
no, 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 like that's way too much. So it's
Yeah.
crazy how we evolve, but it's that mindset of like what's too much or what's too little.
That's so funny. We Jeanette and I always speak on this with our parents. Like sometimes when I have someone come over to clean my house, my mom would get so upset at me. She's like, I don't understand. Like I can do it for you. Like I can clean the house for you. Yeah, give me the money. Like dame el dinero a mí, yo te lo limpio. And she's always like, I would probably even do a better job. And I'm like, Mom, but that's not the point, right? I don't want you cleaning my house, right? Like you're at the age where you're retired, like you should be enjoying your life, right? But again, like we keep mentioning, is that mindset, right, that they have. So yeah.
We all go through it one way or another.
Yeah.
Now, what are a few powerful shifts of habits that helped you move towards abundance, both financially and emotionally? Because I know it didn't happen overnight, but what are those shifts that you can walk us through?
Financially, definitely to have a goal for my money. So I found that the reason why I would just get money and then spend it and not know where it went is because I wasn't clear on what I wanted my money to do for me. So once I learned through financial literacy that goal setting was a big piece of you actually meeting those goals, I put myself to work, right? So that's where it's a very individual journey because different things would drive different people. For me, I was driven by this lifelong dream of traveling the world while young, of quitting my corporate job for a year and getting to travel to places while young and then returning to corporate. Again, some people that might not speak to them, but maybe they want to buy their dream house by the time they're 30 or whatever their goal is. Maybe they want to retire their parents, just whatever your goal. They want to be debt free by the time they're 30, right? So different things drive different people. And once I got clear on that goal and what was going to motivate me, it made it a lot easier to stick to a plan and a spending plan at that. So some people call it a budget. I like calling it a spending plan because it's a plan for how you're going to spend your money.
Yes.
And
Love it.
yeah, if you don't set a plan for how you want your money to be spent, the marketers are going to benefit from that, right? These people are just constantly trying to sell you stuff on TikTok Shop or on the internet through Instagram, everywhere, right? You're bombarded with messages to buy. And if you're not strong on what you want your money to do for you, it can be easy for the money to be spent. Where again, if you have that clarity, you're like, is this going to bring me closer or further from that goal that I have of traveling the world? It's like, it's not going to bring me closer and it's really not going to add a lot of value to my life. So I'll skip it for now and keep prioritizing my goal. Of course, it's important to find a balance and to be able to enjoy money in the short term while also planning for long-term goals. But yeah, having goals really helps with that, having your why. And then emotionally, I would say honestly, I didn't have therapy till later. So I'm trying to think of what helped me emotionally. Definitely reading books like the one that I mentioned, The Divine Law of Compensation. Another good money book that helped me with my mindset is We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rogers. And you guys have you guys read that one? Yeah, it's a really
Yeah,
good one.
that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good one, and one that again gives women permission to, it is okay to want more. And actually women should have more because women tend to reinvest in our communities and make the world a better place, right? So that really helped me break away from the no, I have to struggle the rest of my life. I have to live paycheck to paycheck, and really embrace opportunities that I've been given from my family and what they've done for me to be able to allow me to go and seek a higher education, to get a corporate job and have that higher earning potential that they never had.
Love that. And of course, let's talk about your book, Cultura and Cash. Where did the name come from? And just walk us through that whole journey of you writing a book. Where did the idea come from?
Cultura and Cash is my baby. It came out January of 2024. And where did the name come from? I honestly hired my publisher to have them brainstorm the name for me. So it actually cost me $1,000 to have them come up with a name that could work for my book content and my audience. Because a name is important, right? Like it needs to be
Yes.
attention
So powerful.
grabbing. Yeah, it needs to be attention grabbing. It needs to speak to the audience so that they think about checking it out and buying it. So I didn't want that pressure because I didn't have, actually, I did. I had first gen money was what spoke to me, but there was already several content creators with a name like that. And I didn't want people to get confused, so I'm like, no, I need to come up with something different. So that's why I hired my publishing team for that. And we went through several rounds because the first rounds were giving like white boomer. It was like financial freedom for Latinos, the Latino blueprint to
Typical.
money. Yeah. And I was like, you guys misunderstood the assignment. Like, this is not going to speak to my reader, which I
Right.
wrote the book for a very specific reader. And I was thinking of a late 20s, college educated Latina, daughter of immigrants. So I'm like, this won't speak to them. So after some back and forth, they pitched me Cultura and Cash, which I loved
I
because
love it.
Love it.
Yes.
me too. I
Yes, I
know.
love
Yeah.
it.
And talking about cash, like the two things.
Yes. Well, the alliteration of the C and C, and then also the fact that it's bilingual or Spanglish, as you say,
Yes.
right? Cultura and Cash. Yeah. And that it mentions cultura because what the focus of the book is how culture influences how we interact with money. It's a big focus of the book. So that's how the title came up. And yeah, as soon as they sent me that name along with other names, I immediately went to that one and knew that one was it. And regarding how did the idea of writing a book come up? Honestly, it came up as I was teaching as a volunteer, right? So again, at this point, I had read over 50 money books. Then this is like in what year was this? 2019, 2018. There weren't a lot of money books by diverse authors. Ever since the pandemic, there's been a boom of diverse authors that have entered the landscape, which has been great. But back then, there was a lot of like Susie Orman, Dave Ramsey, a lot of white boomer authors.
Yeah.
And that's when I kind of saw like the need of like there's this piece missing of, again, a book that addresses the unique challenges for the Latino community. And I knew that these challenges existed because I was living them with my family, again, having to navigate, hey, can we borrow your credit card to pay for this? And me being like, that's going to affect my credit score. What if you guys don't pay it, right? So all these things that affected my money journey that weren't spoken about in these books. So the idea came up in late 2020, but it wasn't until I won a grant issued by TikTok in May of 2022 that I took it seriously. Yeah, it was a $50,000 grant to work on my dream
Awesome.
project. Yeah, I was one of 10 winners that received the grant, and my dream project was to create a money book for first gen Latinas. So that financial support gave me the ability to hire a book coach, and this book coach kept me accountable. She gave me deadlines. She gave me feedback on my writing, so I actually had momentum towards actually completing the book and not just saying I wanted to write a book.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah.
No, and I love how you don't just speak about it. You are an action taker, right? Like
Yeah.
just like your journey. Like some people are like, yeah, you got to do this, you got to do that. But are you really putting in the work yourself? Right? Like sometimes we want to do things or we teach others or we mentor others. But sadly, in the world that we live in, everybody, like you said, is selling you something. They are telling you what to do. But then it's like, are you really doing the walk? So I think that's admiring, like to see this side of you, especially with everything you've done and where you come from, like those roots, like hits home, hits different.
Thank you.
And it's
Thank you. I
really
appreciate that.
inspiring. And if every first gen Latina could walk away with one message from your Cultura and Cash book, what do you hope it is?
That money is for them too. When I was going through my money journey, reading these other books, I'm like, okay, this is what white people do with their money. So I even got accused by my brothers. Oh, you got insurance for this short trip to Mexico for your car? Well, that's like white people shit, right? So
Yeah.
when now it's like, no, why is it only white people that are allowed to make smart financial choices? I still have a loan on my car. Why would I risk it being stolen in Mexico or wherever I'm traveling, right? Why would I risk it being stolen and then me having to owe that money to the bank? Having to embrace that we not only are we allowed to make smart financial choices, we should and make smart financial choices, especially as
Yeah.
Latinas. Latinas are the second longest living demographic after Asian women. I think the average age is 84. It might be 82, but I think it's 84. So we live a long life, which means we need money to be able to sustain ourselves that long.
Yes.
Yes, and we have to educate ourselves financially because schools are not doing it, right?
Mhm.
Unfortunately, this is a topic that is not spoken about. So we have to be the ones to educate ourselves so then we can educate the next generation that's coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. And over time, that builds a lasting change, right? Because the next generation is able to level up. The one after that should be doing even better, right? Because they have access to more information. They probably have the resources from the seeds that the previous generation planted. So it really has a snowball effect and helps us all kind of move towards financial prosperity and get out of that struggle cycle.
100%.
Yes. And of course, Gigi, thank you so much. You dropped so much gold. I think what you're doing is amazing. Keep up the amazing work. I can't wait to grab a copy of your book and read it for myself and learn everything. So thank you so much. But we cannot let you go, of course. You know what time it is. La Tia Chismosa time. So tell us, what would your Tia Chismosa say about the woman you've become today? Your talks about empowerment and money. What would she say about you?
Honestly, I have exactly the Tia in mind. Not only would she say she has said this, like, I always knew you could do it, girl, when she really hasn't been supportive like that, you know? So, yeah, it's very interesting to see people, not just my Tia, but other people that are like, girl, I always knew you had it in you. And I'm like, really? You actually have been like one of my biggest haters this whole time, but all of a sudden now you're like a supporter. So that's been interesting to navigate. Um, yeah, it's funny. It's
Maybe,
interesting.
right? Yeah, it is. It's usually our family because they're like, yeah, friends, 100%. But family is usually the ones that go against us. And then when we make
Mhm.
it, yo lo sabía, esa es mi niña. And you're like,
Yeah, yeah.
really? Where were
Yeah,
you when I needed you?
right,
So, no,
right.
yeah, wow, we can all relate with that. Love it.
Yeah. And of course, before we let you go, is there any projects coming up or events that you have coming up or just ways that our audience can connect and support you?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Yes, so I make a living as a speaker. So I teach financial literacy at organizations, schools, employee resource groups. So if you're interested in having me speak to your group, you can go to my website, thefirstgenmentor.com, and I teach basics like budgeting or investing 101 or even the themes of my book Cultura and Cash. And Hispanic Heritage Month is a very popular time to book people like me to come and speak to your organization. It's when your companies have budget to hire me. So that would be one way to support me. If you want to check out the book, it's a 4-time award-winning book. I'm very proud of it. Thank you. You can buy it wherever books are sold, and you can also request it from your local independent store to support a local business owner. It's also available on audiobook, and it is narrated by me, which that was fun.
Awesome.
That's
Yeah,
powerful.
that was yeah. Yeah, I had to take voice lessons and do therapy. I had to do a lot I didn't just go into a recording booth. So it was a lot of prep work to do that, but I'm glad because a lot of people consume better by listening, or they prefer audiobooks over reading a physical book. Some people are too busy, right, and can't sit down with the book, but they can multitask and listen to an audiobook and clean or do
Yep.
laundry or whatever, different things. And then lastly, I have gotten lots of feedback to have the book translated to Spanish. it's needed
I was just
because
gonna say, yeah.
yeah. So basically the feedback, I've gone on 18 book tour stops all over the country, and I get this feedback over and over of like, thanks for writing this book. Now I have the tools I need to be able to build this strong financial plan and meet my goals. But I need a resource to be able to also share these teachings with my parents. And my parents prefer to learn in Spanish, right? So I don't know how to say high yield savings account in Spanish. I don't know how to say stock market in Spanish. So they're like, we need the book in Spanish. That way we can either read it to them or have them read it on their own and then we can talk about it. So what's interesting is I did not get a book deal to write this book. I self-funded it with the help of TikTok, but also from my own pocket. So for me to come out with the Spanish version, it's not like I just asked my publisher, oh, people are asking for us to put it out. I have to foot that bill. And that bill is like 25K because I've gotten a quote
Wow.
from my publisher. Yes. So even though my community is very worth that, I at this moment cannot continue to invest in the book this way. So instead, I am going to look for, what is it, benefactors, like donors,
Yeah, of course.
like large
Investors.
donors. Basically, Eva Longoria endorsed my book. Eva Longoria has foundations. Eva Longoria has money. My long-term goal is to pitch to her to help because she's affiliated with the grant, the original grant I won in May 2022.
Beautiful.
Her production company was a co-sponsor of those $50,000. So I want to be able to go back and say, hey, the book's been out a year and a half. This is the impact that it's made. These the awards it's gotten, the recognition it's gotten. Now the next thing is people are asking me for it in Spanish, why it's needed. And the way that I'm going to pitch that is I'm going to ask my readers to submit photos, like a selfies of themselves with the book, and then bonus points if it's with their family. Yeah, because in that way, it's
Yeah.
not me wanting this for my ego. It's because my readers need this, right?
Of
So
course.
having like a slideshow of all the people that want this, that would be impacted by this, I think would really be powerful in helping get that funding for that. So
Gosh, that'll
if
be amazing.
anybody's listening to this, yes, if anybody's listening to this, get those selfies ready. And then in the next couple months, I'll be sharing how you can submit that to me so that I can submit that in my pitch.
That's his.
Yes.
You're gonna make it happen. Like I'm already seeing it. I have goosebumps. Like
Yeah.
are gonna make it happen, and
Thank you.
you have to dream big. You need to send that email. You need to get out there. What's the worst that can happen? You're gonna
Yeah.
follow up in the next 3 months until they say yes, right? And I can see that in you. Like you're not gonna give up, especially if it's needed. You know it's not gonna go to waste. Like
Yeah. And I
everything.
executed out of the 10 people that won that grant. To my knowledge, I'm the only one that's executed my project. So yeah, I can prove
Wow,
I
look at
know how to
that.
get things done. Again, I have proof of the 18 book tour stops that have been well attended by people that are very hungry for this knowledge. So I really hope that we're able to get the funding that we need because our community needs this resource.
You will, and however we can help and support, we're here too. I
Thank
believe
you.
there's power in collaboration and
Yes.
community and helping each other. It's not just what we're gonna benefit from it, it's how we can help you with the benefits or just help you get out there, right? Because the more the merrier. Like we need this. So yes, please. And we would love to buy your book. So we'll definitely look into it
Thank
and
you.
also support you in that aspect. And Gigi, again, thank you for showing us that money conversations can be healing, powerful, and necessary. And that when we shift from fear to alignment, from silence to education, we empower not just ourselves, but in generations to come. So really grateful for you. Thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. And to our listeners, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Y como siempre, chicas, we'll see you next time on Taboo Talk Latina Edition, where we keep breaking cycles, breaking silence, and breaking those taboos.